Yes, the Atlantic Coast Conference. It is certainly on deck. I mean, this conference, man, the ACC, they certainly made some very interesting conversations happen during the playoff, didn't they?
As long as they change their tiebreakers, that's an automatic improvement on the conference as a whole. So, my biggest winner for the ACC is the runner-up from last season. It is the Virginia Cavaliers. At first glance, they avoid essentially the top two teams in the conference in my eyes. They avoid Clemson and Miami, which are two pluses. Weird, weird opener. You get a conference game against NC State in Brazil, of all places. So not the easiest opener, but it is a familiar opponent, so you can't complain with that. Norfolk State at home after that. Then another interesting game at a neutral site. You get West Virginia in Charlotte, which I think is very interesting. I mean, two teams that regionally are very familiar with each other, but they don't play each other every year. So I think that's a very interesting game. You get Delaware. They're going to get the Minichucci effect on September 26th. Shout out to Minichucci of Delaware.
Certified bad man.
that is a bad man. And then you go into and then you get your bulk ACC schedule. First thing to point out here, they do not travel cross country. They don't go to Cal. They don't go to Stanford. The furthest they go is SMU. So that's an automatic plus. You open up the back half of your schedule with Florida State on the road, which is a challenge in itself. You get Syracuse, who is a big fat question mark around them based on how they played in 2025. You would assume Angeli is back in time to at this point in the season. That's October 10th. Again, you get the furthest road game of the season aside from Brazil against SMU. You get Duke, ACC runner-ups, which they're ACC winner, excuse me. They're a completely different team now that Mensah and Barcade are gone offensively. So you get them at home. At Wake Forest isn't one of the hardest places to play at. Again, you get Cal and North Carolina at home. The two last games of the season before you go on the road to Virginia Tech for your rivalry game. So very manageable schedule for Virginia. I love Bo Pribula as a former Penn State player. I love him. So I think he could fit very well into this Virginia team. Or if it's Eli Holstein, he's shown he's been a very capable quarterback as well. So I think this is a very manageable schedule for Virginia. Again, the biggest thing for me, you avoid Clemson and Miami, and you also don't have to travel cross country, which is always a big plus. So Virginia is the biggest winner in my eyes for the ACC schedule. Biggest loser, I'm gonna have to go with Clemson. Coming off a 7-6 year, or 6-7 year, excuse me, in 2025. But it's nothing easy by any stretch of the means. You open up your season at LSU, which let alone makes you a loser in your schedule. Georgia Southern, North Carolina is your first ACC game at home, which who knows what Bill Belichick's squad is going to be in 2026. And then your next road test in week 4, you have to go out to play Cal in Berkeley. So your first 2 road games are in Baton Rouge, and then you have to fly cross country. No, thank you. Coming off of that road trip at Cal, you have to host Miami. Not good.
Not
2
cool.
weeks. Not cool. 2 weeks later, you host Virginia Tech, which again, you'd assume they are going to be an improved team under James Franklin in week 1. At Florida State, another not pushover away game. At Syracuse, stuff can get weird in the Carrier Dome. You host Georgia Tech, which you would assume will be another player in the ACC this year. At Duke, again, we have no idea what's going to be Duke, especially by the time of November 21st next season. And then you get your rivalry game against South Carolina at home. So solely because of the 2 main points I made, you open up the season at LSU, which is a huge loss. Go on the road at Cal week 4 to come back across the country and host the best team in your conference. No, thank you. And then you go Virginia Tech at home and then at Florida State right off of that. Like, this is a gauntlet of an ACC schedule. You get 4 of the top teams in your conference: Miami, Virginia Tech, Florida State, and Georgia Tech. Like, that is tough. That is very tough for Dabo. Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me, they could potentially be 3-2 by October 17th. I'm assuming that, just for speculation, they lose the LSU game and then they lose at home to Miami. They could potentially be 3-2 halfway through October. So, yeah, Clemson, biggest losers for me. And then the team to watch is Louisville. I think the Louisville Cardinals are your team to watch in 2026. They open up the season against Ole Miss in Nashville, which is by itself awesome. Love that. So you open up against hold on, let me pull it up, just make sure I'm getting the schedule correct. All right, yeah. So you get Ole Miss, neutral site, Nissan Stadium. Week 3, you have SMU at home, which will be fascinating game in week 3. Week 3 has a very underrated slate from everything that I've been looking at. Wake Forest at NC State, again, 2 very manageable teams in your conference. You get Florida State at home, which is a plus. At Syracuse, you get your bye week right in between that before you host Stanford. At Georgia Tech, at North Carolina, you get Pitt at home, and then at Kentucky. So another team that doesn't have to travel across the country. That's a big plus. Your furthest away game, I would assume, is actually your neutral site game against Ole Miss. I think, based on geography, or I guess NC State. Yeah, NC State is probably your furthest away game, or North Carolina. So, again, they don't have to travel cross country, which is a huge plus. You avoid Miami, you avoid Clemson. The hardest team you have to play is Ole Miss, SMU, Georgia Tech, Pitt. Like, very, very manageable schedule for Louisville. And I'm a huge Jeff Brom guy. I think Jeff Brom is one of the most underrated coaches in the sport. I think with a schedule of this caliber, this is a 10-2 level schedule minimum. Like, week 3 SMU is going to define your season, because that they could drop that Ole Miss game, but then, go on a run the rest of the year. So I'm fascinated by Louisville's schedule going into 2026.
Yeah, and that week 1 game against Ole Miss, that's a fingers crossed where like if Redzone goes on tour in week 1, I know that's a game that has some interest for sure. It's just a matter of if it's in the budget, or not. But yeah,
Don't give too much away. Don't give too much away.
Yeah, just gotta throw a little sprinkle here in January. Just little, you know what I'm saying. So yeah, with that being said, I mean, I definitely I really, looking at the Virginia pick, I was very close to also putting Virginia as my biggest winner. The reason why I didn't go with Virginia was because of the fact that they do have to go to Brazil. They do have the bye week, and then after that, they do have to play 8 straight games. That's not going to be great for the body. We know it could be a grind in the college football season. So that was why I didn't necessarily go with Virginia. There was a team that you did mention, and you mentioned it multiple times. That was my biggest winner, though, and that is SMU. I am growing with the Mustangs, the Pony Express. That's going to be my biggest winner. So, in terms of a lot of those top tier teams in the ACC, SMU is going to be able to avoid. They don't have to worry about Miami. They don't have to worry about Clemson, which, even though Clemson was disappointing last year, Clemson is still a team that has a lot of NFL talent. That's still a challenging team to play, even though it's not the Clemson teams that we saw, in the late 2010s, for example. Pitt seems like a team that could be on the rise potentially. That team is not a team that SMU has to deal with. Neither is Georgia Tech. So a lot of these ACC contenders, they don't have to deal with during their conference slate. And the one team that they do, Virginia, not only does SMU get them at home, but they get them at home and they're coming off a bye as well. Just an absolute recipe, chef kiss in terms of the schedule makers. They have blessed the SMU Mustangs kindly with this schedule. I love how it breaks. This is a team that really has the capability of making some noise as well. Just in their 2 years at the power conference level, I mean, we saw them make a playoff appearance as an at-large. The only ACC team to do that outside of Miami. And then also, even last year, even though it's a little bit of a step back, still nearly a 10-win season. So, this is a very good program in SMU. They have a more navigable schedule this time around. SMU could be a team that could make a run to the ACC title and make the college football playoff with how things shake out in terms of who they have to deal with in ACC conference play. Now, on the other hand, I'm looking at North Carolina, though. North Carolina, I think, is my biggest loser, right? So for North Carolina, so I remember last year, and I was looking at my first look spring rankings last March. And even though North Carolina, I think I had them outside of my top 35 or top 40, North Carolina was a team last year where I had a ceiling of 11-1 on them. And the reason why I had an 11-1 ceiling on North Carolina was because of the fact that North Carolina had one of the easiest schedules last season. Now, they obviously disappointed. They didn't even make a bowl game. And this time around, North Carolina does not have the same kind of luck in terms of scheduling. My personal way too early strength of schedule power rankings that are going to be released sometime tomorrow, I have North Carolina as having the most difficult schedule in the entirety of the ACC. I think they have a more difficult schedule than some of these other teams. It really starts with their non-conference play, right? It's from North Carolina. So they have to start out on conference play. They have to play TCU. TCU, a very good program that we have touched up on a little bit already doing the Big 12 breakdown. But then not only do they have TCU, that's not even their toughest opponent in non-conference play. These boys have to go play Notre Dame. Okay. They have to go play Notre Dame. And then in between the Notre Dame game, they start conference play at Clemson, at Pitt, at Duke. Duke's going to be very pissed off. That is a rivalry game as well. You're going to Duke's building. You also have Miami at home. You have Louisville. You have Virginia on the road as well towards the end of the year. I mean, do you want to talk about
Hey, you didn't mention one team. They also have to go to UConn out of conference mid-season.
Oh, and that's another thing too. UConn, very good program. They may have just lost their head coach, Jim Mora, solid coach, cool guy. UConn's not going to be a pushover either. They beat Duke, and Duke won the ACC. Okay, so I look at the schedule, and it's like besides East Tennessee State, which they should win, maybe Syracuse, but even Syracuse, the reason that they were as bad as they were, they got decimated by injuries. They're probably going to be better this year too. So, I mean, Bill Belichick, if he makes a bowl game and is in the ACC title hunt in November,
that's a win.
That's a win. And he should go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame and let them know, hey, this is why I am that guy. All right. So
I'm surprised we didn't even bring that up at some point, but that's a completely different story.
Yeah, I definitely did not bring up North Carolina just to bring that up. They genuinely have a horrendously tough schedule for ACC standards. Do I feel bad though? No.
Hey, if you have potentially the greatest football coach of all time, college or NFL, deal with it.
Deal with it. One team that I definitely want to watch out for. I don't think it's a team that we really talked about that much tonight. I'm really eyeing Cal.
Yes.
Cal had a sneaky good portal season. They brought in some weapons. They kept JSC on the roster. Their Fremont freshman. It is a miracle that he did not transfer out after their head coach got fired. Because most of the time when we see a head coaching change, we usually see the starting quarterback go somewhere else. He is actually staying at Cal. with the new coach coming in. They brought some weapons in for him. And I'm looking at this schedule. Yes, you got to go play SMU on the road. You got to play Virginia on the road. But that's not towards the end of the year. And by then, you'll have a firm idea of what your identity is going to be. This is a type of schedule where you look at it and they can make an early season run. You start off with UCLA. This is going to be the debut for Bob Chesney. Besides Nico, not a lot of talent for UCLA to work with initially here in your number one of Bob Chesney. You do also have an FCS game in Wagner. That should be a winnable game for Cal. One of the tougher games that they're going to play from a power rating perspective, though, is Clemson. Clemson's coming to your building. They have to make that cross-country road trip to you. So I look at this schedule, and I think Cal is going to be that sleepy team that no one's going to really care about, into the spring and into the summer. But when we get into October, maybe into November, if they handle their business, Cal could absolutely be a team that could be what they were last year at bare minimum. Worst case, a team that creates some chaos in the ACC title race at the end of the year. That they could be that type of team, or they could be a team that could be competing for that ACC title themselves. I really like what Cal did, but no one has necessarily been really talking about Cal like that, at least so far. And maybe this coaching staff probably wouldn't mind it being that way.
I just pulled up Cal's schedule again. It's interesting you brought them up because they have a couple very intriguing games. One, the UCLA game to open up the season. They go on the road to UNLV October 3rd, which I think is a very interesting out of conference game. But they do also have something that I've personally don't remember ever seeing before in a schedule. They go 3 straight road games. October 24th at SMU, October 31st at NC State, a bye week, and then at Virginia. So you have to go halfway across the country, come home, go all the way across the country, go home. You have a bye week, and then go all the way across the country again. And then you close out with Stanford and Pitt at home. So that's something I've never seen before, but that's just the dynamics of the ACC. Atlantic Coast Conference, more like entire country conference, literally, other than the Big Ten. So that is very interesting. I don't remember ever seeing 3 straight road games for a team in conference. I don't know about you, but that's wild to me.
Yeah, and you know what? It's really fascinating that you say that. I mean, like the ACC, it really should be the like the Both Oceans Conference. Be rebrand from the ACC to the BOC, Both Oceans Conference.
No, they already have coast in their name. Just go coast to coast conference.